Second thing is I just want to commend James Jones, who's the GM of the Suns, because he kind of traded for the perfect player in Chris Paul. He helps out Devin Booker because he spaces the floor for him and gets him better shots. And he, again, DeAndre Ayton has said it himself in interviews that Chris Paul is the best thing that has ever happened to him. And I believe that because he is someone who pushes him, and he's so good in the pick and roll, so dangerous from all three levels with his passing, with his mid range, that Ayton gets a ton of lobs. Like their Spain pick and roll is so good where Ayton sets the ball screen, back screen on Ayton, and Chris Paul finds him. Like that play is their bread and butter. And he does a fantastic job at getting that. And then the other thing that James Jones has done is going back to the drafting. He drafted a guy like Mikal Bridges, which at the time they say, okay, we have Ayton, we have Booker, we have our guys. Now let's get a 3-and-D guy, because other than your stars, you realistically, all you have to surround yourself with is 3-and-D guys. You have your stars who run the ball, run the offense, do the pick and rolls, mid-range threes, whatever. You need shooters around him. He got Bridges, who's a fantastic three-point shooter, has been really, really good for them and can defend. And then went out and got guys like Jay Crowder, who is a 3-and-D guy, like Torrey Craig, who played 31 fantastic minutes like last night, and is a 3-and-D guy. So he did such a good job of filling the team needs, whereas teams like the Celtics, I mean, they kind of haven't really done a ton in terms of trading free agency because it's not a destination, but they also didn't look for guys who fit team needs, especially in the draft. They went for best available, boom or bust. Let's see if we get a third superstar or whatever in Romeo Langford or Aaron Nesmith. I guess Aaron Nesmith was a better pick because he's more of a 3-and-D role player that can be used, but he kind of just wasn't that last year. I still have faith in him for him to develop. But James Jones and the Suns went the opposite route. They said, okay, look, we have our 2 stars. We need to get these role players around him, 3-and-D guys who are going to fit. And then let's trade for that other superstar or star level player who's going to fit perfectly with what we have. And that was Chris Paul. And that's why they're in the position they are right now.
Yeah, I mean, that makes total sense. And I definitely agree with the 3-and-D thing. I think that when
that's
your
where the
stars,
league is. You need stars and 3 guys.
I learned from the Lakers, when your stars are off the floor, when you are kind of in the dog days of the NBA in that one confined game, which I call the dog days, are kind of like the end of the first half, kind of end of the third quarter, kind of 2 areas there where guys are kind of getting a little gassed. The worst lineup that you're going to put in the game, the worst combination of 5 guys. I don't want those guys to be profuse, to be electric scorers, because what if they go cold?
Yeah.
I want those guys to be defenders because that's consistent. That effort's going to be consistent the whole game. I want them to hold the score as close to where it is as possible. A team that can prevent big runs from happening. If they can't score on their own, that's fine. But to prevent these 20-3 runs to end halves and whatnot, that's what you want those guys to do, those 5 guys. So Phoenix does a good job of that. On the other flip side, I know you praise James Jones for going for Chris Paul, but here's why no one else went for Chris Paul. Here's a scenario.
Massive contract.
Big contract, it's expiring. He's old. He's injury prone, especially when the light shines on him. Those are basically the 4 reasons. People should have learned from last year. This guy makes everyone better. He almost took Houston to the NBA Finals. Had he not gotten hurt, I think Houston
and he took a terrible OKC team to a
OKC
5
team
seed
that was god awful into the playoffs and ended up being a 5 seed, lost in the first round. But still, Phoenix, I was also gifted the pleasure of not having to wait 70 days before the season started, like the Lakers and Heat did, and other playoff teams, and thus they were much more regenerated come season. They were healthy the whole year. You're seeing these other playoff teams. Almost every team in the playoffs, including the Celtics, have ran into injury problems at some point during the year. And now we're starting to learn and accept. We thought the whole 70-day thing was complete BS, but now you're kind of starting to, with this whole injury trend, learn and accept that no, those 70 days were very costly, that lack of time. And a lot of guys got hurt. And this is a continuing trend in the league where starters who on teams, and there are some counter examples, but there are some starters on teams that played in the playoffs last year who didn't have enough time to regenerate and rejuvenate and ended up getting hurt this year, especially down the stretch after a long season.